Welcome to the Purposeful Fitness with Coach Ola, where I dive in deeper into holistic health and fitness topics that would help you stay inspired, motivated, and dedicated to living a purposeful fit life while pursuing for the Akhirah. Hey, welcome to the 19th episode with Coach Ola. Today we have Belal Hafeez. He is a personal trainer and a Ramadan fitness expert. He focuses on helping Muslim men become stronger, lose weight, and feel young again. Bilal's goal is to redefine the Muslim dad-bod. He offers online training to men anywhere in the world, as well as in person in the Toronto area. He has been personal training for over 5 years and has been involved in the fitness for over 10 years now. Belal is a husband, father, and entrepreneur, and enjoys spending his free time playing hockey and working out. In today's episode, we will talk about his typical workout routine before Ramadan, how to get our workout in during Ramadan while we maintain our muscle gains, and much more. So are you guys ready? Let's welcome Belal. Hey Belal, assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam. Jazakallah khair for having me.
Yeah. So tell us about your typical workout before Ramadan.
Well, before Ramadan, because to start off, the way I program my workouts are always for the year, right? I never necessarily look at it just for that moment necessarily. So I do the same thing with all my clients. It's always think of the big picture, right? As opposed to what you're going to do immediately, because it's the long term that's going to give you results, right? Not just the quick, simple, just one workout, for example, won't get you results. It's going to be the long term overall, right? So what I like to do is generally leading up to Ramadan, I like to raise my intensity. And so I'm lifting a lot heavier. My workouts are a lot more intense. I'll probably add in more days of workouts because Ramadan, I know we'll get into it, but it's kind of a time where I like to kind of take a step back. Doesn't mean I stop working out, just take a step back, obviously. So right before it's, even when it comes to hockey, I'll play a lot more sports. I'm going to be in the gym more often working out and try to raise intensity because obviously coming Ramadan time, you have to take a step back because you're not able to push yourself to the same pace when you're not able to take in water and food before or after your workouts.
I like that. And as another personal trainer's perspective, it's very important to also keep up with our stretching and taking care of the body from the mobility standpoint. And that's why I love having you on, because the way you train is kind of similar to mine, and you focus a lot on functional training as well. Mm-hmm. And that's something that's very important during.
Yeah. Well, and that's the awesome part about Ramadan, right? Is that what happens is as people as a whole, as we get stronger, we start to lift heavier, we become more mobile, we become more in a functional manner where we're able to do more, right? We expand our capacity of what we can handle. The problem in that is the good thing, and that's obviously a great thing to have, but the problem in that is we start depending on the good things that we're able to do. So for example, if we're able to lift really heavy or run really fast or work out a very high intensity for a long period of time, the thing is sometimes we forget to take a step back and focus on, like you said, stretching or mobility or some of the more functional parts of, if you're having knee pain or lower back pain, instead of blowing through the workouts, Ramadan gives us an opportunity to kind of take a step back, focus on, how we can kind of almost, rebuild our foundation in that sense, right? So, and that's really helps kind of that component of it.
Yes, and that's why I love having Dr. Jen on my show talk about how to regain mobility during Ramadan, and we'll get into it. As the next question is, how do you adjust your workout then during Ramadan?
Well, during Ramadan, like going into is mobility is going to be what I actually have quite a few certifications in mobility, and something I actually work on a lot is making sure, because the thing is at the end of the day it's about what you're able to do through the movement, right? Yes. You'll have a lot of people who are able to squat really heavy, and that's great, but then when you tell them to run or move, they're all over the place. Yes. Right? They're not able to brace their core and stay steady and be able to sprint. They're not able to, even if you ask them to do a simple step up, right? They're just simply running through it, but they're not able to control their way up or down. And then you see their knees shaking the entire time, right? So there's a lot of different muscles that kick into that, right? So, how is your strength in your glutes? How is your strength in your hamstrings? How is, when it comes to your adductors or adductors, how they're functioning through the movement, right? A lot of people have, tightness, and a lot of times tightness is a form of weakness. Right. Usually it's not simply just stretching it out that will make it go away, but it's simply strengthening that exercise through movement. right, through certain movements, right? So, for example, a lot of people have, and because we're always in a seated position, right? We're always sitting, whether it be at home, at work, sitting in front of the TV, driving, etc. We're always, through modern technology, we're constantly sitting. So what happens is, those hip flexor muscles, they always go into that shortened position. A lot of times, it's not necessarily simply just stretching it out, but it's also strengthening that exercise, strengthening that muscle, those muscles, right? And a lot of that does come down to core work, working on your core, strengthening through movement. So what I like to do is take Ramadan is to build on some of those weaknesses that we do build up throughout the year. For example, like myself, I play a lot of hockey. Hockey has a lot of, crashing and banging along the boards, and, it's a very physical sport. So it beats down on your body a lot. And then even with the way I work out, I have a semi-powerlifting routine, so that also plays a toll on the body as well. So what I like to do is take Ramadan almost in a semi-detox manner, I guess you can say, is just kind of build up some of the muscles that aren't necessarily functioning the way I want them to. For me, lower back pain has always been something that I've had since I was a kid, and it's something that I continue to keep working on and strengthening, being a little bit more functional during Ramadan. Finding a way to focus. So, for example, when I was saying people, when they have their movement, a lot of times what happens, their knees are always shaking side to side, and that's usually what causes a lot of the ACL or MCL injuries, and a lot of that starts from the glute, right? Not being able to stay stable through the glutes and not being able to have the power to maintain that movement. So working on something like the VMO muscle, working on various muscles that, working on your hamstrings, because your hamstrings and obviously your quads intersect. So it's important to make sure we're strengthening through those muscles, making sure that, those muscles are activating correctly. So Ramadan, because you're not going to be trying to hit a personal record in Ramadan. You're not going to be able to lift.
Yes.
You're not going to be able to, run a marathon. You're not going to be able to do all those things. But you can still work out in a more controlled manner, learning how to move correctly, correcting your squat, correcting your deadlifts, correcting, various exercises that you want to work on, and having the opportunity to still do it. You can take a little bit more rest. You're still going to burn calories. You're still going to lose weight and so forth, right? You're still going to get all the benefits of the workout, but it doesn't need to be at such a fast, high intense pace. And that's kind of some of the stuff I just kind of work on with my clients and myself as well. But obviously, one thing I will say, disclaimer, is take the first 2-3 days off. Let your body adjust to Ramadan. Let it get used to, because when you're not in a fasted state and you kick into a fasted state of no water, no food or anything, your body takes time to adjust. So give it some time. And once you feel good, then go into the gym, spend 20-30 minutes and see how your body's responding. And then you can play with it as well, right? See what's working, see what's not working, seeing what you enjoy. And the biggest thing I love about Ramadan, or even throughout the year, even just working on in general, is learning about your body, learning about yourself, right? Evaluate yourself and see what your body can do and see what it can, the limits you're able to push, and see how you can grow within that, right? And that's basically what Ramadan is, right? Refraining from so much, and you get to see what you're able to do. And we're able to fast for 16 hours straight, and people always think we're nuts. We always have friends who are non-Muslims. They're like, "Oh, how are you fasting for 16 hours?" Well, and then we think to ourselves, "Well, it's really not that hard." Working out's the same way, right? People ask me how I got my results. Is consistency, right? Just keep doing it, keep going, and keep finding different ways that works for you, right?
Yes, and everything says like on point. That's kind of my training style as well. And you mentioned like your back. You how do you work on your back? Because I know you kind of base touched on it.
Well, with me, it's because I lift so heavy consistently, and because of playing hockey for so long, what happens with me is it's the impact that I'm constantly taking. So for me, it's just strengthening my core and strengthening my glutes, and then working on mobility in my hips. My hips, regardless of how much mobility I do, they're always the first ones to kind of tighten out. So working on mobilizing my hips, doing like the 90-90 positions, hip openers, pigeon stretch. I have some of those stuff on social media. So if you guys are ever curious, you can shoot me a message and I'll try to forward some of the stuff that I'm talking about. But so some of those things are important, and really being able to, just open up the hip capsule and having your body moving better through those movements. Right. So that's something that really helps me through any kind of lower back issues or anything like that.
I love what you said, and that's exactly how I talk about, or why I keep talking about the core is so important. And it's not just about like doing the ab workouts, but it's working around the core muscles, the hips, the shoulders, the glutes. And that's why I loved having you on. So I wanted to have another input, especially with like resistance training. And like he said, you guys go follow him on Instagram. He does have helpful tips. So very good. And then how about this? Are these recommendations the same for men and women?
Yes and no. Yes, for the most part, because everyone should be working out. regardless of where you're at and your fitness level, you should be adding some form of resistance, in your body and your muscles and stuff. It also helps with the density of your bones, right? So even regardless if you're in your 80s and 90s, you should be adding some form of resistance. So if you're younger, you should be pushing that resistance a little bit more. Oftentimes the pushback from women is, well, I don't want to get big and bulky, which is surprisingly with men as well. Like a lot of my clients, they'll say the same thing. Oh, I don't want to look like those bodybuilders. Just to clarify, you won't. Regardless of how much work you put in, you will not look like that. The amount of food and the amount of work that is required and the years that is required to be able to get to that level. And to be honest with you, if you do start to get to that level, then just stop. They'll go away. Right? It's a very simple process of stopping it, right? For example, if you're going, say, 6 times a week and you're eating crazy amount of protein and food and so forth, then just cut it down to 3 times a week and decrease the food, and you'll see the muscles will stop growing in that same way, right? So to answer the question, I guess you could say is the formula is similar. How you go about it will be a little bit different, right? Because, it comes down to, how your body is responding and so forth as well. Nutrition is a little bit different. Guys do require a little bit more food, a little bit more protein. So when it comes to requirement, when it comes to nutrition, it will be a little different, but when it comes to working out, for the most part, it's similar, but you'll have a little bit difference when it comes to mobility and then when it comes to what works and what doesn't, there is a little bit of a difference. So one thing is it does make a difference. For example, with women, when it comes to post-pregnancy,
yes,
right? That plays a huge factor in, when it comes to your abdominal muscles, when it comes to your pelvic floor, when it comes to your lower back and so forth, right? So how you're going to be working out does change how you're going to be re-strengthening those muscles. And then even afterwards, it still plays before pregnancy, or if you haven't got pregnant or anything, it still plays a factor on how your body's going to be responding to certain movements and stuff, right? So, and also you're not going to be lifting as heavy, obviously. Muscle development has shown that guys generally put on muscle a little bit faster than women. Why? It's just genetics. It's how we're built. But so there is a little bit of a difference. But for the most part, especially if you're beginning or if you're intermediate, for the most part, the workouts don't necessarily change that much. It's when you start to go a little bit more on the extreme side, unless you've gone through pregnancy, or unless you have any other or anything else going on. Then for the most part, it generally stays the same.
So this is so funny because, and it's also interesting since this was your guy. So I attended an idea conference last year and for about how to train women post-pregnancy. And there were like at least 2 men in the room because they work with women. And obviously, as you said, there is a difference in training women, especially after pregnancy. And a lot of men are, like, from the trainer perspective, are not very aware about it or know how to go with it, about how to talk to them, for example, how to train them. Yep. And then the speaker mentioned how she heard this one male trainer who was like, oh, women should never lift this heavy or whatever, and she was so obviously disappointed. But there is some misconception also within the male trainers out there, and that's why I'm happy that you brought that topic up, especially the post-pregnancy.
Yeah, well, there is one thing that that does exist, and it's regardless of what field you go into, is where if people assume they know everything. But the thing with health and fitness is it's so diverse that there's so many different moving parts to it that it's almost impossible for you to be an expert in every field. I have people that come to me all the time, and for the most part, if it's general issues, I'm able to deal with it for the most part. But there have been issues where I've had to refer out. And so one advice I always give to people when they're picking a personal trainer, if he acts like he knows everything, he or she acts like they know everything and they're able to answer every single question, it's usually best not to go with them, because then they're going to be making up things as they go. If they're not willing to refer, for example, I've had people with knee pains and so forth. For the most part, people recovering from ACL and MCL injuries, I'm able to handle them and recover them and get them back. But then there are certain times when I've had to refer out because I'm just not able to get my head around it. So, when someone's willing to admit that they're not perfect, then they're probably a better option to go with, because clearly they're continuing to keep learning and continue to keep trying to get better, and they're trying to provide you with the best information available, as opposed to trying to make up things as they go. You find that a lot with trainers. You'll find that in the fitness industry a lot, unfortunately, where people just kind of make things up as they go. So it's important to kind of learn from different people, but also see what they're willing to offer as well.
Thank you so much for bringing this up, because as you can tell, on social media, we see so many influencers posting videos and stuff, but they're not really trainers, and it drives me crazy. But it's so true. You got to do your research, guys. It's just not this person has videos or whatever, they know about it.
What's worked for one person won't work for everyone, right?
Exactly.
And there's a difference between doing and teaching. right? Just because you can do something doesn't mean that you're able to teach it, right? So, and that's one thing you see, guys will ask me, oh, this really big jack guy in the gym told me so and so. Unfortunately, that really big jack guy is wrong. What he did worked for him, but worked for him won't necessarily work for you, right? So, and that's a huge difference of understanding. And you have that all the time. I get people all the time, and they'll come and see me. I'll be like, well, this is why so and so exercise won't work for you, or why it's not working for you. All right, you'll have, for example, guys love bench pressing, and so you'll have guys come in with shoulder issues, and they'll hear all the pseudoscience and bro science in that sense of, oh, well, if you just do this and do this and do that, well, you'll just get better. Just perfect analogy is most people will be like, oh, well, just lift lighter and just do a little bit more reps and your shoulder will be fine. No, that's not how it works at all. So I had a client come in after months and months of shoulder issues, and he's just like, every time I bench I have issues. Well, after looking at him, it's a simple stability, right? He didn't have the stability in the shoulder joint and his rotator cuff to be able to go through that movement. So for a month, we didn't have any sorts of bench, and we just focused on building the stability. And he's just like, I'm not going to be benching. I'm like, no, you're not, because you don't have the capability to do so right now. And literally within a month, he was back at it and lifting heavier than ever, right? But that's something someone who simply just works out won't understand the physiology and anatomy components of how the body functions, right? So simply listening to someone on Instagram because they're in shape, it's like listening to someone who has trying to get money because they have a fast car or a really expensive car. Don't know the whole story behind it. So do your research on who they are, what they've learned, what certifications they've taken before you jump on board and start taking their advice.
Oh my gosh, thank you for bringing this up. When I became a functional fitness specialist in 2017, I attended a workshop. And that workshop, obviously, we learned about how to train functionally. And that's exactly the same example that the speaker was telling us that, especially with men, as you mentioned, the big shoulders and all that. And this person, and I believe, eventually he couldn't lift any heavy and he leaning forward, which was really bad for your back. And yeah, so it's not about the weights, guys. Just saying.
Yeah. Mind you, I'm still promoting lifting heavy.
Oh, no, I know, but I'm just saying, lift smart.
On your capacity. Exactly.
And lift functionally right, I guess.
Exactly.
How do you get your workout routine back up after Ramadan?
Usually after Ramadan, because it's summertime, I like to be outside a lot. I like to, I'll take my daughters out to the park and do workouts outside with the wife, or find things active, hiking and doing other things. But at the same time, because I've spent a month, deloading in that sense, I like to go pretty hard after Ramadan and kind of see where my numbers are at and compare. I kind of use that month after as a test to see what's worked and so forth. And again, take the opportunity to kind of learn about myself as well. But what I'll do with myself and my clients at that time is kind of, re-engage the intensity. In summertime, people are more willing to kind of go outside and do sprints and work out and so forth. So I'll try and be more active as a whole. So, and for some reason, obviously, because summertime, I guess, because everyone's happy, the weather's great, so we tend to have more energy. So I'll take advantage of that and push the limits a little bit more, but obviously still staying within a bound that we're able to kind of handle it. But start lifting heavy again, start increasing the intensity. This summer, for example, I'll be preparing for a few hockey tournaments, so I won't necessarily be doing powerlifting. I'll be doing more athletic training, so working on getting faster, quicker, working more plyometrics, etc. So that's going to be important for me personally. But when it comes to clients, it depends on the goals. If your goal is just simply to get in shape, then you can increase the weights a little bit and increase the intensity, but just make sure that you are, the key after Ramadan is always nutrition, because you've gone so long and being so used to of not eating. When everything becomes halal again, it's like we start eating everything again. So I like to take the first week of focusing on the nutrition and more of the psychology part of it. Just because you can eat everything doesn't mean you should. So and then especially after Eid, right? So after Eid, people, which rightfully so, eat whatever and do whatever you want on Eid. You've earned that right too. It's a day of celebration. But then after Eid is done, try to take that week to reset and refocus on how you're going to be moving forward. So focus on nutrition first, and then from there start going at your workouts.
Inshallah. And you're talking summer, and for me personally, I love the summer season and spring, especially when it comes to the pool time. So I would like to encourage everyone to get out there to the pool, do what I roll, for example. And I love agility, like the plyometric agility training. So it's exciting. And then almost last question. So as a father and a husband, how do you balance it all out during Ramadan with Salah and all of the fun stuff that we go through in Ramadan?
Lots of du'as. Well, now because there's two of them now, so two daughters obviously now, so it gets a little bit more tougher with time. But the biggest thing is for me, it's even throughout the year is building a schedule, having a schedule set up. And that's kind of how I go throughout the year as well, is being strict on your schedule, and especially in Ramadan, because for me, Ramadan is time to kind of go in. It's a time for me to get away from people, not in a negative way, but just in a way to kind of work on myself and be a little selfish with my time. Be obviously open with giving back, because obviously we all know the rewards of giving back during that time. But when it comes to, ibadah and stuff, you really want to. So what I do with a lot of my clients is I do cut down on my in-person. I open up only 2 or 3 time slots in the evening and in the afternoons that I'm willing to work with people. So they know they have to let me, it's, first come, first serve basis in that sense. So I cutting that time down. So it helps me open up my schedule a little bit more. But then even with my online and stuff, I'm more strict on the times that I'm working. So it allows me to, instead of doing a 12-hour day, which is a usual thing for me, I'm working, say, a 6 to 8 hour day, which is what everybody else does. So it's nice to kind of feel like everybody else. But then I try to take the rest of the time to work on ibadah, schedule my time even with my daughters and my wife to make sure that, okay, this is a time that I'm going to be put my phone away, put everything away, just daughter's time and just wife's time. And it helps really just kind of, because that's one thing that happens is with a lot of people I notice is when they say they don't have time is because they're trying to do 2, 3 things at once. If you just do one thing at a time, it allows you to open up your schedule a lot more. So for example, don't have your phone when you're playing with your kids, or when you go work out, don't do anything but work out. Do what you are there to do. And then because then if you're trying to do everything at once, then when you're sitting and you're reading and you're reading Quran, your phone's going to be beside you and you keep looking at updates and you're like, oh, I couldn't get as much as I wanted to get done this month. Well, because you keep looking at your phone, right? So, and workouts the same way, right? We lot of times we're like, oh, there's no more time left. It's because you kept looking at your phone or you kept talking to people, right? Focus on what you need to do. So I try to take that month to just focus in on what's most important. Obviously, nutrition is going to be the most important, and workouts. Nutrition is going to be important, obviously, in keeping my protein intake high, finding hydration. A cool little recipe that I have for hydration, actually, I think you might like this, would be what I do is at suhoor time, what I do is I take about a liter of water, or close to it. So those shakers, like protein shaker cups and stuff, usually about 750 ml. So I'll take that, I'll fill that up, water, I'll put
the salt.
I'll put Himalayan sea salt.
So I tried that last year. It didn't work out. And you're the one who encouraged. Like I got one from you actually, and then I'm like, this makes no sense. It didn't work out for me. So how do you?
And did you put a lemon in there as well?
I don't think I did.
So yeah, do half a lemon, or you could do a full lemon, right? Squeeze that in there, put a pinch of Himalayan sea salt, and then what I do on top of that is I add amino acids as well. So amino acids are great for, building muscle and preserving muscle. And that's the thing during Ramadan is we don't get time to, obviously we're not eating for a very long period of time. So it's easier for, our muscles and so forth to break down to be used as energy stores. So we want to make sure that, we're keeping up with our aminos. So what I do is I have those 3 things, and it helps with hydration. Aminos don't help with hydration, but the lemon and the sea salt will, if you have enough water, if you're continuing on drinking enough water. But again, you've got to give your body 2-3 days. Everything's not going to kick in the first 2 days. You got to keep it, and it's not going to work in just by doing it once. You got to keep allowing your body to keep getting those replenishes, and your body starts to understand what it's getting, and it starts to learn in that sense too. But try it again, but this time try with lemon, because you're the only one who's told me it hasn't worked. Everyone else who has tried it has been like, whoa, this is pretty good.
Okay, I think I didn't add the lemon, so I'll add this Ramadan.
Okay,
inshallah.
Yeah, that's so. When it comes to for me personally, balancing within Ramadan again is just a schedule. Knowing when I'm going to work. For me, I work out in the afternoon.
Yes, that was my next question.
So most people can't handle that, and that's fine. But remember, I have years of working out experience under my belt. All right. So for me, I know what works and what doesn't for me. All right. I always say there's about 3 times during that you can work out during Ramadan. All right. It's afternoon, before iftar, right, or after iftar. After iftar, that obviously doesn't work most people because Tarawih is so close.
Exactly.
So I actually know some people who actually work out right after suhoor, and they have great amount of energy throughout the day, right? But again, that's not for everybody, because I know some people who have tried and they've had a miserable day because they're like, I'm thirsty, etc. So you have to go. So I always suggest is, again, try each one, see what works. I can't do before iftar because a few hours before, that's when I'm training clients, because that's when clients want to see me. And then I like to keep an hour open to make sure I'm home with the family, and then, getting ready to, do all my ibadah and stuff like that an hour before as well. So if that time works for you, go at that time, half hour before. That way you jump into food, you can go and eat and stuff, so you won't be too hungry. For me, afternoon works. I don't have any issues with it. But again, after taking the first 2-3 days off, my body's adjusted. But I taper it. There's times when if I feel like, oh, I might get lightheaded if I go a little more, or if I feel like I'm gonna get too thirsty, then I just take a step back. I control how the workout's going. I slow it down a little bit, and then I focus on different stuff through it. And then that way you're able to kind of understand how your body's working. But for me, it becomes a boost of energy, right? So usually what I do is I work out 3 times a week, or sometimes 4 if I get the time during Ramadan, because it's a little tougher. And then otherwise I'll make sure I go for a walk every day. Every single day I have to go for a walk, and I feel a huge boost of energy afterwards where everything feels so much better. I feel lighter on my step. I feel, a lot more clarity when it comes to thinking and mental power, and just everything as a whole, work-wise, ibadah, etc., family time, everything feels a lot better after my workout or after my walk. Walk is generally 30, 45 minutes, sometimes an hour, depending on, if it's too hot and so forth as well. So again, you got to play with it to see what works for you, but you got to find a time to do it. Sometimes it gets a little tough if you have a family party of some sort or something like that. That's fine. But for the most part, we're not attending a family party every single day of Ramadan, right? It's usually on the weekends, maybe 2 or 3 times, maybe once a week, right? 1 to 3 times a week max generally. So you still have another 4 or 5 days in the week. So try to find time throughout that time, and it will make a huge difference.
So do you do it after Tarawih then? Is that what you're
no.
Or afternoon? You said afternoon, so that before.
Afternoon, yeah. So for me, it's afternoon.
Oh, yeah. Got it.
Yeah, last year there was a few times where, because the gym that I go to is 24 hours, so there was a few times where after Tarawih I did go in, right? But but mentally I'm just not checked in. For me personally, I rather go get some rest or something, just because
I agree.
You just stood for an hour or so, or actually more than that for Tarawih and stuff. So I rather spend that time to kind of rest and recover from all the day's work, than instead of going and getting your body and your central nervous system refired. I rather get it done during the day. But again, it goes based on schedule, right? Some people, for example, if you're in university or college, your day doesn't start till 1 p.m. the next day, and you're like, hey, I can be more nocturnal during this month, go for it, right? So you get your sleep in the morning, and then you stay up all night, and if that works for you, go with it. But again, go based on what works for your schedule, but there's no excuse not to find time.
I 100% agree, and that I like how you say that, because so that's exactly what I like to promote as well and recommend to people, is that find your own time, find your energy. I actually did try myself to do running after suhoor. I was one of those people, but it did work out for a few days, not the whole entire month. And it's also important that's why I like to be promoting being active before Ramadan, so it's not a new brand for you during this.
Exactly. Like if you haven't done anything for the months leading up to it,
yep.
Be very careful how long your workouts go. Keep them very short. Your body's not used to, pushing yourself at all. You're going to ruin your fast for that day, and potentially the day after, if you think that you're going to just start a crazy routine. And so that's one thing. Try to start a few months before if you can. And, obviously if that's not possible, then the biggest thing is, if you are starting in Ramadan, which I don't know why that is, but it's like, I just get a huge, a group of people that come running to me during, right before Ramadan starts. It's like, okay, hey, so what can I do now? I'm like, well, you should have came to me 2 months ago, but sure, let's get started with something, I guess. The biggest thing is start small, right? Start with a few 20, 30 minute sessions, and don't jump on a cardio machine, because you're going to get drained right away, unless it's just walking. Focus on the weights, focus on slow, controlling the movements again, right? Focus on your core, finding different routines. If you want, I can send out routines as well, or, obviously yourself, Coach Ola could help out as well. But the biggest thing is if you are starting in the first day of Ramadan, take 2-3 days, go for a walk, see how your body's responding, then hit the gym the next day, and then seeing how your body's responding as well. But again, it's going to be a little tougher if you're starting in Ramadan, because your body's just not used to obviously being pushed out of that limit.
Exactly. And that goes back to the cardio as well. I know a lot of people promote the cutting down cardio. I do cut down, but I kind of maintain myself the same as before, just because, as you said, I'm used.
Exactly, right? Because with you, it's different, right?
Yeah.
You have years of training and being active under your belt, right? So for yourself, I've had people try to keep up with my workouts. I'm like, no, don't do that. It's not the same thing. It's like it doesn't work the same way, right? If you haven't done that, then Ramadan is not the time to try to see what your body can handle, right? It's not the time when I've had people come and say, oh man, I was trying to deadlift 315. I'm like, why? It's like, oh, I saw you doing it. I'm like, but that's easy for me. But that's because I've been doing it for so long, right? Like it's not, I'm actually just showing. And so what I actually started doing in my videos, I stopped lifting heavy in a lot of my videos because I noticed people start trying to imitate. And I'm like, no, this is actually easy for me and I'm still able to keep form. Hence, I'm showing you the video. But so then in some of my videos, you'll see me lifting just one plate on each side. I'm like, okay, just do this because it should be easy, right? So I'm like, don't copy what I'm doing, copy what I'm saying, not exactly what I'm doing, because this is working for me, but slow it down a little bit. You might have to lift a little less. But again, focus on the year. Don't focus on just this month, right? Because it's a little corny to say, but it's something I would say is you can't run away from your body. You can't change your body. Your body is who you are for the rest of your life, right? So don't think about it in short term, right? Think about it for the rest of your life. What can you do to continue to keep being better, right? So in this month, you take a step back, refocus your goals, focus on building the foundation, right? So if you have, the really fancy buildings in Dubai, or if you have like our simple buildings that we have here, like in Toronto or anywhere in the world, the key is always the foundation. The foundation never changes, right? Everything else will change. How big you want the building, how tall, how colorful, if you wanted different designs, whatever you want, that's fine. But the foundation in itself never changes. It has to be solid. It has to be strong. And that's the great thing about Ramadan is it helps us build a strong foundation where regardless of where you are in your fitness level, Ramadan is when you can really build a strong foundation. And the cool thing about that is Islamically it's the same way. That's one thing I always try. That's one thing I think that's always kept me close to fitness is it's so relatable to, our deen and our religion is that build a foundation. Ramadan, it does a great job of building that foundation for the rest of the year and building those habits, right? So start building those habits for fitness as well. And then you'll start to notice the difference throughout the year. It's like, whoa, I did this in Ramadan 3 times a week. But there's no reason why I can't do it outside of Ramadan. If my crazy busy schedule in Ramadan, then, there's no reason when my schedule frees up a little bit after Ramadan, I can't continue to keep doing it, right? So build that foundation, build those habits. And then inshallah, after Ramadan, inshallah, you're able to be consistent and continue on.
Inshallah. And I'm not sure if you've heard of her, Modestly Trying. Jerry, she's a triathlete in hijab. She actually did a triathlon in Ramadan last year. It was crazy to watch her. But again, she's used to it.
Exactly.
Going back to the point. I'm just going back to the point, guys.
Yeah, it's important to add that disclaimer, right? Because you've got to taper yourself. Like if you became a pilot on the first day, you're not going to be jumping on a huge international airplane and start flying those around. You're going to start small, all right? Take the baby steps, take it simple. You'll get there. Inshallah, you'll get there. All right. I've had people that I've seen begin working out 5, 6, 7 years ago, and they're past me. Right. And I'm like, that's awesome. Keep doing it. But remember, it takes time. Right. It's not going to happen overnight, but it will inshallah come. Right. So yeah, inshallah, just consistency is key.
And last but not least, tell us about your Ramadan fitness guide that you have and where can we find it?
Yeah, you can actually follow. You can actually get that link through my Instagram. If not, then just send me a message and I'll send that out as well. You can actually check it out on my website as well at strongerwithbilal.com. On Facebook as well, I'll have posts up as well for it. But the best place will probably be on strongerwithbilal.com because there's a few different things that we'll be launching. So I just want to make sure the link is the same. But it's great because it's going to show you how to work out during Ramadan. It's going to allow you to have a guide in front of you on what you need to do in order for you to make sure that you're not overdoing it, but you're not underdoing it as well. You're staying within a good time frame. Intensity is good. You're still losing weight. You're building a little bit of muscle, and you're keeping that muscle on. And then you're also allowing yourself to stay strong throughout that month, and using working out as a way of building a strong foundation for the months to come, but as well as keeping your energy high. It's important. People don't realize you can actually increase your energy for the rest of the day by working out. So it's simple formula on how to be able to do it. And I want to try to provide that during the guide as well.
Inshallah, everyone, you can find a show notes as well. And thank you so much. Do you have any questions that I should have asked maybe?
No, I think we covered. Awesome. I think we covered pretty much with it. Jazakallah khair for appreciate you bringing me on.
Yeah, and thank you again. Have a wonderful Ramadan Mubarak and Assalamu
alaikum assalam.
Thank you for tuning in. If you've enjoyed this episode, make sure to subscribe today and leave a 5-star review. You can also screenshot and share this episode with a family or a friend. Be strong, be fit for Akhirah.